when NASA's planet-hunting Kepler Space Telescope discovered the first clear evidence of methane in the atmosphere of a planet outside our solar system back in 2009. It was cause for celebration. Scientists had long suspected that such a discovery would come soon, but this confirmed it. And not only that, they also found water vapor and what might have been signs of carbon dioxide. But there's more to the story than that. This exoplanet with the catchy name GJ436b is now telling scientists more about its atmosphere, including the fact that all those tantalizing hints of CO2 might actually be something else entirely. GJ446b is a so-called super-Earth, an exoplanet that is bigger than our Earth, but smaller than Neptune. It orbits a red dwarf star, about 30 light-years away. And while researchers are still working on confirming some details, they think the planet has a rocky outer layer like Earth's, and a very thick atmosphere. The existence of an atmosphere around a planet that far away from its star was already a big deal back in 2009, because scientists were still unsure whether or not planets outside our solar system even had atmospheres. Now we know that many of them do. But one of the amazing things about having an atmosphere is being able to use spectroscopy to analyze its chemical makeup. Spectroscopy works by shining light through a gas cloud and then measuring which wavelengths of light make it through to the other side. Certain wavelengths are absorbed by specific chemicals. So by looking at the gaps in the light, scientists can figure out what kinds of molecules are present. But even though scientists knew what kind of light to expect from a planet with an atmosphere like GJ436b, when they looked, the actual spectrum they observed didn't match. There were too many gaps. All the light they shone through seemed to get absorbed. And now, after more than a decade of follow-ups and observations, scientists think they finally have a solution for this mystery. They may have spotted what substance was gobbling up all that light, and it is not what they expected. In 2014, researchers got another chance to observe GJ436b when it passed between its star and Earth. This time they were ready. They used the Hubble Space Telescope and a technique called transit spectroscopy to observe the planet's atmosphere as the star's light passed through it. This confirmed that the planet had an atmosphere and that it contained methane. But it wasn't able to explain why the initial spectrum didn't match the expected one. It wasn't until 2021 that researchers realized they needed to rethink what they expected. Until then, most scientists thought that GJ436b formed farther away from its star, where in the habitable zone where liquid water could exist on the surface. But in 2021, one team proposed that the planet formed much closer to its star, somewhere hot enough to prevent any water from ever condensing into a liquid. If that's true, then any water on GJ436b would be in the form of vapor, and it would behave very differently than water vapor on a planet with a more typical atmosphere. Water vapor condenses into clouds at much lower altitudes in these extreme environments. And if those clouds reach high enough altitudes, they can reflect a lot of light, blocking out the stars and making the planet look like a white speck instead of the more typical brown speck. So that explained why the planet was brighter than researchers expected. But it didn't explain why so much light was getting absorbed. And just to complicate things further, a paper published last year claimed that they had detected CO2 in the planet's atmosphere, which would imply that the planet did indeed form in a region with liquid water at some point. That's because CO2 is unlikely to dissolve in water vapor, but it should dissolve in liquid water. So if the planet formed somewhere with liquid water and then migrated closer to its star, it should still have CO2 in its atmosphere today. But according to a new study published in the journal Physical Review Letters, it looks like GJ436b never had a thick atmosphere with lots of CO2. Instead, it seems like the unexpected absorption bands were probably caused by hydrogen sulfide, and that fits with the idea that the planet formed close to its star without ever having a chance to cool down. What's more, the amount of hydrogen sulfide in the atmosphere matches what scientists expect to see if the planet formed in the right place and never moved. And it's not just the chemistry that makes this model fit so well. Researchers also considered what kind of gravity the planet would need to hold on to its thick atmosphere over billions of years. Simulations showed that if GJ436b formed closer to its star, it would have enough gravity to keep its atmosphere from escaping, even as it migrated inward. But if it started farther away and moved closer, its gravity wouldn't be strong enough, and the atmosphere would have dispersed long ago. But don't worry, this isn't the end of the story. Scientists still aren't sure whether GJ436b formed close to its star or farther away. There's still debate about whether it even has oceans on its surface. There's still questions about how exactly it migrated to its current location. So while the hydrogen sulfide hypothesis explains a lot, it doesn't explain everything. In fact, another group of scientists recently argued that GJ436b could have a thin CO2 atmosphere, and that its migration history doesn't matter much, and there are other possibilities as well. Maybe GJ436b was a gas giant that lost its puffy hydrogen atmosphere over time, or maybe it picked up its thick atmosphere from its host star. Its stellar wind probably contains lots of gas that would happily join the planet's atmosphere if it had the gravity to hold it. And while it might seem like scientists are hopelessly lost in a web of possibilities, they're actually in a really good position. After all, they can always take another look at GJ436b and collect more data to test these competing ideas. According to one of the authors of the new paper, there are two telescopes in particular that he's watching. One is the James Webb Space Telescope, which will be able to measure the mass of GJ436b's atmosphere directly. And the other is the Nancy Grace Roman Telescope, which will be able to measure the brightness of the planet, helping scientists figure out what kinds of clouds, if any, are in its sky. Whenever scientists learn more about GJ436b, it'll tell us more about exoplanets in general, and how many ways there are for worlds to form and evolve beyond our solar system. And that's exciting because understanding how planets form helps us understand how Earth formed too. By studying these strange worlds, we're learning more about our own, and who knows, we might even find that we're not alone in the universe. Thank you for watching this episode. We've made thousands of educational videos over the years, and we've been able to offer them for free because of our patrons. So to all of our patrons, thank you for what you do to make this happen. If you're not a patron, but you want to learn more about what that means, you can go to our support page.